Yes, let's start with the selection of the components. So first of all, it must be clear that the connector you are going to use is really tailored for field assembly. Yeah, there are many different termination techniques. Some are more suitable for field assembly and some are less suitable for field assembly. To mention I would say the extreme example, for sure you can't recommend or use a cable connector with solder termination, yeah, to anybody who's standing in the field and who needs to quickly act and solve an issue. No chance, yeah. So that's clear. But also besides this, even if we go, for example, for IDC, there are certain connectors, I would say, which are more tailored for field assembly, and other connectors which are more tailored for an industrial assembly hall where many different workers are doing the same connector with the same cable, raw cable, frequently in a very high volume. Yeah, so there are different kinds of connectors. We at HARTING, we have, especially for field assembly, dedicated connectors. And we also have certain connectors which have different characteristics, which are more tailored for, I would say, in-house mass production. But this part comes later on. So means, very important, think about which connector can be used for field assembly. If this is done, then you need, of course, to check the technical parameters of the cable connector and the raw cable. So what is typically used is IDC termination. And in the data sheet of the cable connector, you will find here certain ranges, wire gauges, and so on. And you can have a look on your raw cable and check, okay, what is the wire gauge here? For sure, that must fit. That is a must need. But to be honest, this does not always guarantee that the connection is really stable. Yeah, so we in HARTING, when we qualify a cable connector, we typically do not check the data sheets only. We make really a complete qualification test. And even after the connector is in the field and customers are contacting us and saying, oh, HARTING, I have now this raw cable here. Does this raw cable really fit to your connector? Because the technical requirements, characteristics from the data sheet, they seem to fit. So can you confirm that? And we in HARTING, but of course we have here the laboratory, we have time and so on. We do typically a 2-week short test. We call it short test, where we go for contact resistance, temperature, so many different things to really ensure that the cable connector really fits to the raw cable. Of course, in the field, you don't have this time, but just to underline what can happen, yeah, even if the wire gauge is correct, you can see it here on the left-hand side. We have an IDC of one of our products, and we have a cable, a raw cable with the wires you can see there, which from the American wire gauge fully fits the requirements of the connector. But anyhow, as you see it here on that picture, it doesn't fit, because what is very important for IDC, that you have this, I would say, gas-tight connection between the different wires of the cable, which must be really pressed close together. An indicator also here is that they are a little bit deformed, and you can see and imagine they are under pressure, and that you all in all have a gas-tight connection. Yeah, so that's very important. But coming back to field assembly, you of course typically don't have the chance to make some views on cross-section. For sure, you would like to make the machine work again very quickly. But what you can do is a must. Check the wire gauges, they must fit, no question. Afterwards, if you would like to be a little bit, would get more confidence, you could even call HARTING and say, okay, do you have experience with this cable and this connector? This gives even more evidence, but those are the typical options you can seize. But honestly spoken, our IDCs of the connectors, they are designed really in a way to cover almost all kind of different cables, yeah? So means, if the American wire gauge fits, our connectors tailored for field assembly have IDCs which typically cover almost everything. Very important, the fit of IDC to the raw cable. Second point is then the fit of the outer cable diameter. Yeah, of course you have a ceiling, the connection from the cable or the transition from the cable to the cable connector. there are different kinds of sealings and so on. And for sure, you need to make sure that the outer cable diameter really fits to the range. Typically connectors, they provide a certain range that they fit together. Yeah, this is also very important. We in Harting, even to make sure that this really fits for serious products, when we qualify them, do an IP test. But this is the point, I would say, if the millimeters of the data sheet of cable and cable connector fits together, this is really high evidence that everything fits. And then last but not least, also here a point which you might smile about, the category. Yeah, of course, if you have a Cat6a system, and the cabling installed, connectors, raw cable, and so on, they all are designed for Cat6a, and you transfer, for example, 1 gigabit, then it is a must. You need to make sure, of course, that you take a proper connector for field assembly which fits to the requirements of your system. And even that, because people, they are in a hurry. If a downtime of a machine is happening, they are really in a hurry, and even that sometimes appears that this doesn't fit. All right, so means the selection of components for field assembly is really a very, very, very important point. If this is done properly, then that doesn't mean that everything works for sure. Yeah, so field assembly, once again, is a sensitive process. And yeah, we now come to the process itself. Yeah, we have a small video on the right-hand side. We don't show it up to the end, but everybody who has assembled, for example, an RJ45 connector, no matter which supplier the connector comes from, we all know that even preparing the raw cable in the first step is a certain thing you need to make correctly. And if you are, once again, if you are not a guy doing this every day in the production line by hundreds of assembly every day, yeah, you just are an engineer, the machine has a downtime, and you need to act, then also the preparation of the cable, and afterwards the assembly process of cable to cable plug is really a very important point you need to consider. And to go now also to this point, so for the assembly process, what can happen? What can you make wrong? I have brought with me two specialists here. One, you know, it is Thomas Hüsch, once again, from company Softing, as well as Matthias Speer. So Matthias Speer is Head of Product Management, Global Product Management for our business unit dealing with cable assemblies and raw cable, and they are now overtaking for the next part.
Yeah, thanks, Joachim. Very interesting. So Thomas and me brought also, or we want to show you what can be done also wrong in an assembly process. And therefore, the first step is you have to check your stuff. Are they used to assemble RJ45 connectors or data connectors, or do they normally assemble, for example, heavy-duty connectors like from our HARM portfolio? This is a special case because then it's always recommended that they will get the training before, so you can avoid lots of failures in the field with bad connections. Additional to that, the question is if you use the correct assembly tool. Joachim explained that the right components have to be used, but also the correct tools have to be used. In case that you use the wrong tools for assembly process, it could be that the contacts are not pressed completely in, and the connection is shown in the IDC, what Joachim showed, could look like this, and you don't have a safe connection. Additional to that, there are some mistakes which could be done or which seem to be simple, but they are there, and we see them in the field. And one of them is that you have the wrong loading plan. You have always to consider that there are two loading plans from IATIRE 568A and 568B. And there, if, for example, if you cut a cable assembly and you assemble a new connector to it, it's very important that you know what is the loading plan on the connector which is already there. So you have to choose the right loading plan on the other side as well. So this is one point which can happen. Another important thing is, for me? Oh, thank you. Another thing is that it's very important For example, here I have prepared some products, and in our cam that we have the twisting of a Cat6a cable. So the pairs are twisted, and here it's very important that the pair twisting is not too wide open. So it is recommended that the twisting is as close as possible to the contacts. This has a positive effect on the near-end crosstalk. Additional, it's recommended that if you have an SFTP cable, that is also the foil screen is as close as possible to the connector. Here, again, an example how it should not be. Here you see a completely removed pair screening, what happens often in the field when the staff cuts this pair screening and assembles the connector. So, two versions, one where we opened the twisting and one where we removed the foil screen completely, and here we will show in a few minutes in a live demonstration at Thomas that this cable does not work. We have also prepared a version how it should look like. So we have it here. So here you see we have, compared to the other one, the shielding completely inside the connector. We have the twisting of the wires as close as possible to the contacts. And now, Thomas, I would say I prepared another cable where we mounted the shielding and the connector housing, and Thomas will show you that if you do it correctly, this cable will work. So it's Cat6a cable. And in the meantime, I will prepare the version which is with failure, and we will also show you then that this is really not working if you work like this.
Okay, for this I connect the, in this case, patch cords to our tester. It has just recognized that they are both connected together. You can see that here on the red light with the telephone symbol. And that's basically the point at which I can then say now, okay, now we do an auto test. And when we now do an auto test, it takes approximately 10 seconds until this one is finished. And this time it is doing the check for wiring. It is doing the check for all the RF frequencies. And after 10 seconds, before I can stop speaking, you see already the green dot here with the tag in there that says, okay, this cable is a pass. And then you can store this test result very quickly, very easy. You can prepare all this as well. And then you can have this test result later on in the software, where you can as well then show the test results on the eXport software. That was a good sample. And now Matthias has presented to me that the next cable is ready.
Yeah, so my skills in...
That was good.
were very good.
Yeah.
Now we show how it should not look like. So I prepared this cable now with shielding and with a housing.
And you don't see as it is inside, and that is the point now. So what we now can see here is it looks like the other cable, very, very similar. And I connect it now, and we now do the testing. Okay, wow. I just switched off my unit. Sorry for that. I now have a delay of 20 seconds to explain what we are doing here. By accident, I have switched the unit off. So we are now coming back to life in a few seconds again. The remote unit is still running, and now the local unit has to restart again. I'm very sorry for this delay. And after the unit has booted up again, we can now show this defect cable. I have not made anything to the cable now. So let's see what's going on now. Okay, it just takes another some seconds now until it restarts. And that is always the ugly process. Okay, it should be ready in a few seconds. And then we can start straight away the auto test, because it is doing now all the internal checkings and all this stuff. There we go. It has showed the connection on the remote end side already. The local end side is dark. There we go. So these both are now connected together. You can see again on both units, you see the red light that shows us that the connection is there. And I'm now starting the auto test again, 10 seconds. And we are doing now the basic testing on this unit here. He is doing now the auto test, takes, as I said before, roughly 10 seconds. And there we will go then with the test result. And you can see that the unit now told me already that the auto test had failed. And what we can see here, okay, that was a short now that goes from pair 1 to the other ground pair. So basically with the screen you have shortened now some of the wires. Okay, it was an RF failure, sorry?
Could be also a failure.
Yes, of course. And the most important is you can find out where that is. So if the unit shows you a fail, you can always then go into the tools and can see there in the tools then what you can check here. Here's a wire map again. So we can do the checking of the wire map. We can do the checking of the distance. We had prepared that with an RF failure in there, but it now shows something different.
We can remove it and try it again if
yes,
you want
of course,
so.
yeah. Okay.
Or maybe not. Oh, it doesn't work because it's not possible to remove the housing without a tool, and I don't have a screwdriver with me, unfortunately. But yeah, normally it should be an RF failure on the next. Unfortunately, we built another failure.
Yeah, but we can find all the failures, that's it.
And you see, you can do a lot of failures in a simple assembling process also while you do it again according to the assembly instruction. And that's why it's important to follow it and to have some trainings to do it more to save time and cost in your production without not working cable assemblies.
Okay.
Thanks a lot to Thomas, thanks a lot to Matthias as well. So means you really see that field assembly is something where you need to consider many different things. Selection of components, assembly process itself. And we as HARTING, we are a company having a global network, sales network, and also product management network. Yeah, so means we do not sell via distribution only. So we have technical sales specialists in all countries. And so if you have questions regarding field assembly, if you would like even to have a technical training of our local team in different countries to also at the table see and check what needs to be considered besides the connector to be used. Yeah, so we are always open to this. Just contact our local HARTING location, and we provide technical trainings here as well on request. All right.
So thank you very much, Joachim. Guess we'll see you again later on.